Hi guys, I'm Gabriella. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to get to know all of you guys. I'm going to be bringing lots of fun content, including giving you guys reviews and recaps of my favorite shows, including The Bachelorette. But we're going to start off with This Is Us. I've been watching This Is Us since the very beginning. I'm obsessed. The show makes me laugh and cry. It's an incredible show. All the actors on there are so incredible. I'm not going to talk about the premiere episode that much. If you guys would like for me to make a whole new video, let me know. But I am going to start off with episode 3. The premiere was fantastic. I loved reliving 2020 in such a short period of time. The trauma of George Floyd, all of the horrible new reality we're facing with the coronavirus. I thought the Kevin and Randall moments and the Kevin and Madison moments were especially really strong, seeing the bond of Kevin's new relationship as well as the deterioration of his relationship with Randall. And in episode 3, we do get to see a little bit of that continue to play out. So the episode starts off with us meeting two, seems to be really cool new characters, a beautiful little Vietnamese girl and her grandfather, and they're fishing. And we cut to them a few times throughout the episode. So I'm excited to see how they're gonna play into the rest of the story this season. And I'm also excited to talk about that little reveal at the end of the woman in the photo and who I think that might be. So then we cut to the Pearson family at the hospital. They're going through puberty changes, and I don't know, was anyone else very surprised when they saw the Kate actress? I had to go to her Twitter because I was like, who is this? I didn't even recognize her. Turns out it's the exact same girl. She's aging very beautifully, and I'm excited to see what they are going to do with her character this season. But this episode to me seemed to feature a lot of Kevin and Randall. Again, we see Kevin is about to try out for the football team, and he's getting ready to start like pumping iron. And I thought this episode did a really, really excellent job of discussing body image in both men and women. I think it's discussed oftentimes in women and like with eating disorders, but we don't often get to hear men talk about their own physical insecurities. So I think the show did a really beautiful job of exploring a little bit of that story. And then we saw Randall also getting another little crush, although he was being very standoffish the whole episode. And I really liked Kate's friend. I thought she was putting herself out there. There was not any more signals that she could have possibly done to show Randall that she was interested. But Randall kept pushing her away, moving on. We also saw a little bit more squabbling between Kevin and Randall, and it just really mirrors how fractured their relationship is now. And I really hope that they can build that bond back that they have as brothers, because it's one of my favorite relationships on the show. Another really key feature of this episode was Kate and Toby. We know that they are getting ready to adopt, and this episode introduced us to Ellie, who I loved. I thought she was really funny, really charming. I thought she had a really great dynamic back and forth with Kate especially, and I kind of hope that works out for them. I hope they are able to adopt her new baby. She had a very tragic story as well with losing her her husband, her childhood sweetheart, and just random hookup resulted in a pregnancy, and she doesn't feel like she can take care of that child. So again, I think that's a new story that needs to be told. There's all kinds of different adoption stories, and I'm grateful that this show brings awareness to so many different kinds of topics. And speaking of bringing awareness, we saw Tess got a little spicy with her parents this episode, and I'll just go on to say I thought Tess was completely in the right. We've all been in positions where we felt uncomfortable in a social situation. If you're a Black woman and you experience a microaggression of somebody touching your hair, people that identify as trans, not calling them by their proper pronouns. And I was very proud of Tess and her friend. I thought the video was funny. I thought it was very catchy. I'm not exactly sure why Randall and Beth seem to be so upset about it. But you know, they're the parents, they get to make the rules. And it did seem to me that Randall was a little bit more on Tess's side. It didn't seem like he actually wanted to punish her that harshly, but because him and Beth are such a unit, he's not going to be the good cop, and they are going to team up together and give Tess a 6 weeks of punishment. Again, I thought it was a little much, but I don't know. I think I can definitely see Tess continue to rebel. We see her call Randall a fascist in this episode. I bet she has definitely called Beth that already. So I'm excited to see her journey. I hope she continues to use her voice. She's become quite the little freedom fighter. We saw her yell at Beth about not using those cage-free eggs. I'm like, get it, girl. You should, as the youth are the ones that are going to change the world, and I don't think we should be silencing their voices. So we'll see what happens with that. I see Tess probably getting into a lot more trouble throughout the rest of the season. Another really big plot point we saw was Randall trying to find a new therapist, because we saw in the premiere that he didn't feel quite as comfortable discussing certain issues with his current therapist, who happened to be a white woman, and he was looking for a black therapist. And again, the show really delved into how difficult it can be to find a therapist, because you want to find one that's the right fit, that you feel comfortable disclosing such personal sensitive information to, one that you feel like you're going to respect their opinion, one that's going to make you feel heard. And they also threw a little bit of that 2020 coronavirus into it, because it's not like you can go meet a bunch of random people face to face. A lot of these therapy sessions are over Zoom, which does again change the experience. And we saw Randall eventually pick a black man, a young father. And I believe a key reason of why Randall wanted to move forward with that therapist is because he also had a daughter, and him and Randall were able to relate and bond over both of them having a daughter. And I think that scene where we saw where the therapist ended up giving Randall the homework, and we saw the therapist say, "You don't have to prove your blackness to me." And I think that's something we've seen Randall struggle with since the beginning of this season, of this series, of he doesn't feel quite black enough because he was raised in the suburbs by white people. He is trying to, I think, always be connecting to his African American identity. And I think especially with everything that happened in 2020 with the protests, I think it's really something that he's going to focus on this season, and he's really going to push to finally, I think, feel comfortable in himself, despite the way he was raised, acknowledge that he's an African American man, and really, I think, get to a deeper place in his blackness, if that makes sense. I would say the last key plot point that was really, really interesting and a little sad for me, this was a part of the episode where I choked up on, was when Madison was discussing her own problems with an eating disorder, because we see that Randall and Kevin and Madison have a brand new relationship. Again, they hooked up, they got pregnant, and they were not dating, they weren't friends, they didn't know each other very well. So now that they're living together, there's going to be a lot of fights that come up. They've been biting their tongues for a long time. They both have probably been tiptoeing around each other. So I was really happy to see that they were both able to be so raw with one another and be very vulnerable and express their emotions and really their background. And Madison went in onto how she was bulimic and how every time she gains weight during her pregnancy, it calls to mind all of the insecurities and how horrible she felt when she was 17, and how she is happy to be pregnant but is struggling with that body image still of what she thinks she should be. And we cut to a scene where Kevin is also discussing his own body issues, and we even see a younger Kevin sneaking back into the garage after Jack has taught him how to lift, and still lifting without his father, making it seem that even back then he was struggling with his physical appearance, and he has put a lot of his focus, a lot of his identity on how he looks. He feels like that's a big reason of why he's famous, which is why we saw in season 1 where he went off and did that play so he could prove that he actually was a good actor and was talented outside of just taking his shirt off. And I actually really loved those scenes with Kevin and Jack, and this episode really reminded me of how strong that relationship was. And I think Jack was Kevin's biggest cheerleader. Not that his mom also wasn't, but you know, moms are busy. Her focus was a little split, and I think Jack definitely went out of his way more often than not to bond with Kevin. And I think the fact that Kevin has lost Jack, I really saw the void that has left in his life, and even mentioned how great of parents Jack and Rebecca both were, but they miss things, and parents miss things, and especially when you have 3 triplets that are going through puberty, like the doctor said early, like it's a nightmare, I imagine. So I encourage like all parents, check on your kids. You never know what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and I think a big thing for, I would say the big 3 is at various points in their life with their parents, I don't think they felt heard, or they didn't feel like their parents quite knew what they were going through. And their parents, I'm sure, would have loved to have that insight into how they were feeling, but I think everyone struggles with this, is trying to really not only express your emotions to people that love you, but understand them yourself. And when I was watching this episode, I'm like, the whole family needs to be in therapy. They need to call up that one rehabilitation center. They all need to book an appointment ASAP. I think they would all really benefit from that. But it was a really, really great episode. I was a little worried after such a strong premiere. I'm like, how are they going to live up to this? But I thought they nailed it. It was great. I loved it. I'm so excited for next week. And so again, I'm going to touch on that little mystery that we saw with the new Vietnamese family that we've been introduced to, and who are they and how do they relate to the Pearsons. And they cut to the woman in the photo of who the grandfather expressed that he learned to cook for. And my current theory is that might be Randall's mom. It had a little bit of resemblance to her, and I would not be surprised at all. And I'm so excited to see how they fit into the Pearsons' lives. And I'm so excited for next week. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, tell a friend, and I'm excited to bring you guys more content soon. Let me know in the comments if there's any specific show you'd like me to review, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!